I'm Dean Newlund, and welcome to the Business of Intuition, where I coach, facilitate, train, and speak on the hard science and meaningful experience of intuitive leadership in business, so you can make better decisions, forge real connections, and creatively solve problems to amplify your impact and simplify your life. Welcome to the Business of Intuition.
I admit it. I am addicted to email. I am a people-pleasing baby boomer that wants to be on the ball and prove my worth by the speed of my response. On average, I check email at least 10 to 20 times an hour. After my other addiction, coffee, it's the first thing that I do in the morning, the last thing I do at night, and the thing that I do when the announcement is made that is now safe to use approved electronic devices on airplanes. Speaking of planes, I recently read on an Atlanta flight an excerpt from John Friedman's book, The Tyranny of Email. If the first step to recovery is awareness, well, Friedman opened my eyes. For example, email is addictive the same way slot machines are. The average worker spends 40% of his or her day sending and receiving some 200 email messages or more. We misunderstand the tone of emails 50% of the time, and failure to respond to a sender can lead to a breakdown in trust. It takes workers 25 minutes to get back on track after an interruption, and interruptions take up to 28% of a person's workday, creating a $650 billion drag on the U.S. economy each year. Email has conditioned us to think and talk in short bursts, slowly eroding our ability to explain in a careful and complex way. Interrupted every 30 seconds or so, our minds are denied the experience of deep flow when creative ideas flourish and complicated thinking occurs. It also cuts down on our ability to be intuitive. Well, Friedman is right, but who has the time to think clearly when we are under an assault by a tsunami of other people's needs? How do we break this email addiction? And how can I be productive and responsive and have time to get real work done? My next guest on the Business of Intuition has some answers. His name is Yaro Starak, and he is the founder or co-founder of inboxdone.com, an email management company with a team of 45 plus people serving clients, including restaurant owners, venture capitalists, accountants, doctors, lawyers, real estate agents, car retailers, and online coaches, and more. Our conversation was a real eye-opener for me. It gave me some real ideas about how not only can I get a handle on this situation with email, but also how I can delegate far more things that I'm currently doing to other people who are open and willing to do it. Yaro Starak on the Business of Intuition. Yaro, it's great to have you on the show. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because it's a conversation that I get into a lot with my clients, and that's around delegation and being more efficient. And, you know, as fate would have it, I was just finishing up a facilitation with a group of people just this, what is it? Today's Friday, just this week.
Yeah.
And, you know, the big topic that just sort of emerged was how do we become more efficient? And here's my lead into this. I want to ask your help on this. So there is the issue I've found in this particular group, which I find in other groups, is that they find it emotionally difficult to let go of things. And they know delegation is right. They might even have been told how to do an audit of their meetings and their tasks and so forth, and which ones are high priority that they should do, and which ones could potentially be seen as that could go to somebody else. But in the end, there's this sort of this emotional connection that says, I get my value as a person out of doing stuff. And if I were to give it to somebody else, one, it may not be as good as what I can do, but two, I actually might lose some of what I feel is what defines me as a person. So I guess I want to start with this conversation is that emotional connection to holding on to stuff that we probably should let go of. And then I'd love to hear other types of ideas around how we can be more efficient. So how's that for a lead in?
That's such a good lead in for me, Dean, because the company I run, we do email for people. And if there's one part of everyone's lives where they feel like I can't let that go because it's me, I'm the one who responds to my emails. It's ridiculous to even think about someone else doing it. So we have to overcome the emotional side to that and the practical side to that too. Like, what if someone writes the wrong answer to an email, or gets me in trouble, loses a customer, writes back to my husband or my wife, and they get upset. So there's all kinds of situations where we've had to kind of teach a person that there is a process you can go through where you learn and get comfortable with the delegation process. So you're trusting the person you're handing over to, you're seeing them implement a system that you start to understand as they do it. And you start to see, oh, this is why this problem won't happen. And I'm still involved. I'm not completely out of the loop if I want to be. So there's a logical side of it. But I will have to say, when it comes to delegating, and I can think back to my own very, very first time ever trying to delegate, there was the emotional side and also the financial side too. Obviously, the fact that I'm giving people my money to do work that I feel like I could do, and I just get to keep all my money. So, that's potentially better.
As a business owner, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, there's always going to be the financial concern too. And I had to kind of overcome this idea that me being the leader and the driving force behind anything that this company is going to do, including growth, means I have to take the time I have and use it in the best possible manner to get the outcome I desire. Now, if I wake up and I'm answering emails, checking social media, doing maybe busy work that can feel like progress, assigning people tasks or talking to potential clients, but really maybe the thing that I should be doing is much bigger, higher level things, like maybe creating a new product or launching a brand new marketing campaign that's going to reach thousands of people rather than the 5 that I currently reach, or something like that. I have to make that choice to find the time. And as all business owners know, you don't manufacture time. It's an exchange. Something has to go for you to get time back. And I learned very early on that the only way I can get some time back was to start handing over tasks to people. And I could justify the financial aspect by just doing some simple math. I had to have a little belief in the math, in the sense that if I hand over, let's just say, email, which is currently 2 to 3 hours of my day, and then I take that 2 to 3 hours and I use it to maybe start a marketing campaign by writing some content. That was my strength. That was kind of my talent, or connecting with certain partners who would then promote something I had. That activity would bring in 3 or 4 times the money I would be losing by spending it to delegate email to someone else to handle for me. The hard part is the belief that I will get the outcome of growth, and it'll be an ROI there. Despite spending money, there's actually going to be a return. Unfortunately, especially for, I think, newer people in business, they don't trust themselves that the growth will come. They're concerned they're going to spend more money than they're ultimately going to make. I knew that the only path forward in my case was to either build a team or get used to a certain level and stay there for the rest of my life. And that's not what I wanted. In fact, I really wanted, before we started recording, I told you I travel a lot. In order to travel, I can't be doing every single role in the company, because I would just be sitting at home or, in the hotel, in the room, kind of like I'm sort of in not a hotel now, but I'm in a co-living space.
Yeah,
I'd be just working here the entire day. Well, meanwhile, there's amazing New York City out there. I'd never get to see it because this would be my permanent sort of place, just because I'd be doing every job. So that's a long-winded answer, I think, Dean, but hopefully there's something in there for everyone.
Well, so you tell me what's the secret sauce for you? What's your message to people? What's your offering that makes people, if they did it, more efficient and able to travel the world like what you do, in a sense?
I see it as 2 key components. One is automation through technology, and then one is creating time by delegating to other human beings. So it's other human beings and technology. Those 2 in tandem, you can pretty much build a machine to do whatever it is your business does, like if we're talking about entrepreneurship. So, in my case, I experienced more the technology side to begin with. I discovered oh, you can sign up for an email autoresponder and it will automatically send email messages, through like one a week for the next year. And I could set that up and promote, deliver content, build trust, build an audience, set it up once, and then it would keep working without me. And then I realized I could set up digital delivery systems. So if they buy something from me, the money's collected online, the product's sent digitally, the receipt is sent digitally. And there's other automations, but those are two really simple ones: taking payments, delivering product, and delivering some form of content and marketing through email autoresponders. And that got me pretty far, because at the time I was running a content business. I had a blog, I had a podcast, I sold on my online course, a membership site. And with a very small team plus that technology, I could, extract a lot of value from it, have a lot of freedom. And because I had the benefit of also being a content writer, I grew my audience through the leverage you get from writing content and it continuing to show up in Google, and you keep, reaching an audience. So I learned all about the power of this sort of online technology for automation. However, that can only take you so far. At some point, if you want to really expand and grow, then you start to hit tasks that you can't automate with technology. You need some human beings to be talented and, be creative.
And what is that? Well, I mean, what would you say with those things you just should not automate? What's your guidelines for that?
Well, with AI, this answer is probably going to change as time goes by. But in my experience, straight away, technology was, funny I say that automation through technology, but you have to have someone to set up technology. So when I got started, like a lot of people, I couldn't build a website myself. I wasn't going to code. I wasn't a graphic designer. I wasn't going to, design all my social media imagery. I'm not a video editor. I'm not going to sit there and do that. And I didn't want to become that for my business either. So those were areas where I, especially with, say, website setup, simple things, installing software, configuring scripts, even just basic things like going in and buying a domain name, getting it to work with your website hosting, very simple things. But I brought on a tech person. So that was me day one. The second thing for me was actually email, in particular customer support. As a person who did start to get some customers, I realized I was spending large amounts of time answering questions, some easy, like, where do I download this? Some more complex, like, here's my life story, can you help me? And some of those things I need to be a little bit involved with, but I realized I could probably hand over 80% of those emails to a human being. And there was no technology that could be dynamic enough to answer every question coming in from other human beings who are my customers or potential customers. So I had to bring in humans to do that as well.
So let me ask you about the email thing for a second, because I think that this is something that's fairly consistent, whether you are an entrepreneur with your own business, you're the one who can do what you want to do. You have a lot more flexibility. You can make those decisions versus a person who might be working in a large organization where, like, well, we're going to deploy a new technology. We're going to have to get the tech department that's going to have to be put in our plan. We're going to take us 6 to 12 months to be able to make that happen, if that. So email is obviously something that follows both of those scenarios. What is your recommendation for how to make our interaction with our emails more efficient, especially on the side of the organizational person who's got this large company? Because I hear that all the time. You do too. Everybody who's on this, podcast listeners, they hear this all the time. I spend way too much time trying to hunt and peck which part of my emails do I need to be paying attention to. And I'm spending way too much time just kind of responding to them. It could be, to your point, 2 or 3 hours a day, 400 or 500 a day. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm doing this after my kids are put to bed. What's your overall recommendation about email management and being able to get out from under it?
Yeah, you're highlighting everything I use in my own sales pitch for my company there. Are you tired of, are you tired of going to bed after, doing 2 hours of email after putting the kids to sleep and all that? But it's true. It is. We're describing a lot of people's lives today. So, and email is a funny one because, like I said, people don't automatically think this is some part of their life they can delegate. They think of delegating to an accountant for their bookkeeping and their accounting. They think of delegating copywriting to a copywriter, or website design to a website designer, but they don't think email to an email assistant, which is sort of something we're trying to really bring to the forefront as something you can do. But to answer your question, the way to think about it is your email is broken up into different types of messages. Those that are very low level of importance, very routine, probably could be dealt with in a systematic fashion. Like I said, sometimes it's customer service, how to download something. Sometimes it's just booking you into a calendar meeting to get you to show up to a meeting or something like that.
Right.
Then there's the content in your email that might be a little bit unique in the sense that it's the role you perform and you're going to be getting questions specific to your role. However, it's not so unique that it can't be learned by others, in the sense that once the answer is taken from your brain, we extract it, it's in a template, it's in a knowledge base. It can then be used and learned by your assistant to still answer the question. And then there's ultimately the 5%, maybe 10% at most, where the email is very unique to you. It's very complex in nature. It could be about a relationship that only you understand. And those messages you're probably still going to be involved with in some shape or form. These ratios differ for every person. Some people, like, we have some clients in our business that are doctors. Naturally, we're not going to be able to answer medical questions as an email
HIPAA
assistant.
laws too, right? You can't.
Exactly. Yeah. And we work with venture capitalists. We can't answer financing questions.
Right.
We work with bakeries. We can't answer how to make certain things, but we can certainly answer most questions, around, do you ship to here? And how much does it cost for this? And is it gluten-free? These kind of questions. So because we deal with a variety of clients, we sort of realize and have come to understand that there's a greater majority of messages that you can delegate straight away from day one. You just don't, because it's all in your inbox.
So I got to go back to some of your materials here. Are you saying that you can outsource your email to a third party?
Yes. Dean, do you do your own email? Is this something you're...
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I've got people on my team, when I go on vacations, people check my emails and they respond to everything and they do a great job. In fact, this last trip that I took over to Europe, I was gone for 3 weeks and I don't think I looked at my email other than for a reservation for a restaurant. The rest of it was all handled by my team. And so it kind of proved the point that I couldn't let a lot of this stuff go, right? And a lot of it was just saved for when I came back, when people were aware of that. But what you're saying, and again, this could be a external company that could actually be trained in terms of your particular business, so that they would be the ones who would be combing through your emails and responding as you, and then leaving that which only you can answer for you to answer. Is that what you're saying?
It's what we've been doing for 5 years for a lot of different clients. So the short answer is yes.
That's wild. I mean, it's just like, I probably read that somewhere, but I was just like, I kept thinking about it as somebody on your team that might doing it. But you're saying, all right. So my other question, that I get that's an eye opener for me. What about the confidentiality piece? I mean, I guess if it was an internal person, somebody within my company, and all of a sudden my email is being read by this person, or think about large companies like, oh, did you hear that what so-and-so is doing? Like, it becomes an issue around confidentiality and trust, whether or not we want to make sure this other person knows about this. Maybe there's an HR issue. Maybe there's some sort of complaint that's going on, how do you deal with the whole confidentiality issue, whether it's internal delegation of my email or external to a company like your own?
So two sides to that. There is just the flat out legal side. We have an NDA. We sign NDAs provided by clients. So, we protect what we can protect. And even more so, we go further than that. If there's a need to essentially filter away certain emails, this is where that doctor example or the financial information example might come in. We shouldn't be seeing patient private information. So we segregate. Here's the inbox for most of the emails. Here's the inbox for the medical information from patients. Doctor sees that. We see everything else. It's separated. The internal external thing has really surprised me. We've had more than one client say they deliberately came to us as an external agency to handle their email because they didn't want to delegate it internally for the risk of let's say they want to hand it over to their secretary or their admin assistant, but then that person starts to see all this communication regarding other people in the organization, like, oh, this person's getting a promotion, this person's getting fired, this person, something happened. So they actually like the fact that we're we're in the company in the sense that we're in their Slack channel. We're communicating with them, but we're not part of the company. We're not day to day. We don't,
Right.
there's a barrier, a layer of separation. So we handle the emails, but we're not going to impact the culture within the actual physical place that the company is operating from. But more often than not, this is a very routine task. Like that's the thing that I think people are surprised by. This is really just like cleaning the dishes every day. You go in, there's a bunch of things that need to be answered. You answer them. There's a bunch of tasks that probably need to be done, booking into your calendar, updating some software, informing you in a Slack chat or in a text message or in a WhatsApp that there's this thing you need to know about. It happens twice a day. We give them to assistants, so we got backup, and that just frees you up. You're not in your inbox anymore. So I can't like preach it more than it's just so to me obvious now. I've been doing it for 10 years, but most people don't think about it. So
no, it's sort of like, I remember the day many years ago when I gave over my calendaring. No, it was even before that. I think I gave over some of the invoicing, it was for our company, long time ago, right? I felt like I was losing my firstborn child. It's like, oh my God, and then when I gave over my calendaring to somebody else, so the travel, like these are things like, and then it was fine. And then what happened, just giving you a plug, is that the business grew. It was almost immediate because I was doing high value activities that were what I should be doing versus things that don't make sense for me to do and somebody else can do. And it just opened up a whole nother avenue of things. So is there any sort of sense about what percentage of time can be saved for a person to offshore, to give out their email management to somebody else? Knowing that some part of it they're going to still have to do because it's only them and, whatever. But what's your stats on this? What are we thinking about here? What's the upside of all this?
Well, I can throw this back to the listener and just get them to ask how many hours a day they spend in their inbox. Everyone has a different answer, but generally speaking, our clients will say 2 hours to 3 hours a day, maybe split up into 3 different sessions. Or some people are, I don't know why, it's accountants seem to do this a lot, but they will have their inbox open the entire day. And whenever that ding hits, they go straight to the computer, answer the email, and then go back to work. Kind of disrupts them. So I can't say how much time they take, but they're getting disrupted throughout their entire day by this task.
That's me. I do that all the time. All the time.
I get it. Email is a bit of a sugar rush. There's definitely an endorphin or something, a dopamine hit there from opening up an inbox. But it also trains you and your email recipients that you're there, that you're going to reply in 5 minutes, which is terrible because that's a horrible expectation to set if you ever want to get your time back. So we kind of have to retrain the recipients to emails as well as our clients that you're not going to be replying in 5 minutes. Now we're going to train everyone that they will get a reply. It'll be within 24 hours, probably less, but that's the new expectation. And how we, like, in terms of getting your time back, you're going to get, I say this because some of our clients have 100% removed themselves from the inbox. And we do that because we can go in there, take over the entire inbox. And when they need to be involved, it's through a different channel. It's more likely going to be a Slack message like, hey, we've hit an email we've never seen before. Dean's asking me how long you've been podcasting and do you recommend it? And then I write back and they just put that into the email. But that's like one question a day or every 6 days. For me, it's like I go into my Yaro folder once a month to sort of look at things that have been put away there. But if something's urgent, I get told about it as soon as it hits the inbox through Slack. So, you've got triage, you've got prioritization, you find out what's important, what's not is just filed away and you're not part of it. So, but it's as far as you want to take it. If some of our clients are like, I got to dip my toes in slowly, I need to get comfortable with this idea. So let's start, but let's have you take over routine admin tasks where I'm not worried about it. And that might be 50% or 60%. And then they see that happening, they get to know their assistants and they're like, you know what, I'm ready for you to do this 10% more and this 10% more and slowly work our way up to 80, 90, hopefully 95%, even as close as we can get to 100% of their emails.
Wow. Okay. So going back to sort of training our recipients about the expectation for response, is there any sort of rule of thumb? Like, check emails. I mean, but let's assume that if we're not working with your company, but you just say, here's a good rule of thumb. Once in the morning, once in the evening, or once during lunch. Or wait, what's your general idea about when you should be checking emails?
Well, everyone's different with this. It's an addiction. So first of all, let's break the addiction. I'm a big fan of Eat the Frog. I think Brian Tracy. I used to follow this a long time ago, and I'd be like, okay, I have a priority task. You don't get to look at your inbox until you've written 2,000 words towards, this product you're creating, or until you've whatever it is your priority task. And then it's like, it's not a chocolate bar you get to eat as a reward. It's you get to open your inbox and check your email. I'm not sure if it's the same, but so to me that works really well, especially during deadline-driven activities. Like I remember I had to write an entire report of about 30,000 words in a month. So I said, I've got to write 1,000 words first thing in the morning before I do anything else, just to make sure that is ticked to get to that goal.
And therefore you wouldn't check your email until that task was done.
Well, we all know what it's like to open your inbox and then like an hour and a half later, you're still there, and you haven't realized, oh, that wasn't 5 minutes, that was an hour and a half, just because you're like, delete. Okay, yeah, I think that's cool. You're writing a few answers here and there. You're sort of getting lost in the menagerie of the day to day, what's going on, and it's hard not to, because it's often from like your work colleagues, your friends, your family. It's kind of compelling in a not going to grow my business kind of way. And that's why I kind of equate it to a candy bar, a chocolate bar. It is a reward mechanism in our lives. And as an entrepreneur, it's even worse, because we often get notified of incoming sales in our inbox. Yeah. That's where we get money. We get a real hit. So that's what we want.
I was at dinner last night with my son, and I think he went to the restroom or something. So I had my phone with me. I pulled up, and there was this meeting notice for a particular client that we've been wanting for a long time. And I went, this is really good news. I'm really excited about this, right? But it's like I am constantly, I get it. This is me. I am addicted. I need to go through a 12-step program. I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, and there's no one answer for everyone here. It's awareness first. I think the best thing you can do is delegate, but I'm biased. I run a company around that.
Right, of course.
But I've seen the lives change. It's kind of funny for a person who's already succeeding with their life or their business. This is often one of the best things they can do, because it's about getting some life back. It's not about anything more than that. It's going to the gym when you couldn't go to the gym. It's seeing family when you couldn't see family. It's going on a holiday, when you couldn't go on a holiday. So for me, it's something I love to talk about.
And again, you're saying that this can be done for entrepreneurs who are the ones who are obviously sort of doing many roles or in charge of most things, and also a person who might be, a mid-level manager in a large Fortune 5 company who has a team of 15 and, has all these different projects. And you're saying that this can be effective for both of those types of people. Yeah,
it definitely, in terms of our clients, we have more entrepreneur types, less executives. We have some academics as well, which has been a little surprising for me, but academics get emailed too. And then we have the executives, but it's often not going to be big like Fortune 500 CEOs, because they have internal people. They have very confidential emails. That's almost all confidential, high level information. Yeah. But if you're like, we've had quite a few sort of a manager in a small to medium sized company, especially if they can get the company to pay for the service as well. There's another benefit. They say, listen, I'll be more productive. I'll get more work done. This is the way to pitch it. It's an external EA. That's what we're doing here. And people know what an EA is. It's like, that's a common thing to ask for. Can I get an EA? Can I get an executive assistant? So we are an executive assistant that specializes in email and calendar. Obviously, we're a little more complex. We have a handover process that's about cloning you. So there is a commitment you have to put in for about a month or two of just, we have to clone you. We have to learn how to do this role, how to take over your email. So it's not kind of a random thing to do. It is something you decide to do and take it seriously. But it is just like hiring an EA.
Fascinating. And so I noticed in my own emails, and I'm sure others can attest to this as well, is I'm trying to comb through all of this other stuff that I get that I don't need. Like I'm on some darn list, I signed up for whatever, in order to get some information. And in the fine print, it says I'm going to get a bunch of emails, and I just don't have time to always go back and find the website and unsubscribe to these things. And so then you end up, with different tabs that filter these different types of things into promotions or what have you, or social. And that seems to help as well. And I do a lot of deleting without even looking at an email because it's in a certain tab that I know I'm not going to ever look at.
Yeah.
Does this service that you provide help in that as well, in terms of unsubscribing you to those things that just fill in your inbox?
Yes. So like what I mentioned before, like that handover process. So you probably won't find it surprising. We have some people come to us and they say, listen, I've got 30,000 emails in my inbox. Can you help me? Like I'm clearly drowning here. Right. And sometimes they have 50 folders. So they're filing away things too, but it sort of becomes like 50 inboxes. It's just a way to file things and never look at them. And, they think there might be some opportunities somewhere in those emails they're missing, or, it's just too many. So what we do is we start a handover process that A, it's about learning about you, but B, it's also about setting up our systems and cleaning up, building a knowledge base, putting in templates, often reducing folders to ones that you actually use, setting up automatic redirects, reminders. But really it's about first saying to you, like, Dean, what are your priorities in your email? Like, what do you really care about here? Especially if you've got 30,000 unread emails, because we're not going to go, one by one necessarily. We could, it'll just take a long time. Often it's like, okay, well, I need to know, is there a potential client somewhere in here that I've missed? Is there a potential key partner or hire, depending on your role, supplier, whatever it is? Let's have a good look for that. Let's then start cleaning this up. Let's set up what systems we need. We spend a lot of time in a person's sent folder because it helps us to understand what's your writing style. Who do you email often? What are the common situations? That allows us to create those templates, which do speed up replies. We go a bit further. We create SOPs. For those who don't know, standard operating procedures. So a good example is you get an email of a new client signing up. Great. But there's also a procedure that has to start. Send back a welcome email, upload their data into some kind of CRM or client management system, issue maybe an invoice, tell a team member that we've got a new client. There's some kind of process they might have to do. So that's like a procedure that we actually document. We try and do as much of that as we can, but we create that system. So it's kind of like we're systematizing your inbox and how to run it.
Fantastic. Really cool stuff. This is great. Well, any other sort of delegation tips? We talked a lot about this inbox thing around emails, which I think is fascinating because it is one of those big ball and chains that people are trying to unshackle themselves from. But in a general sense around, you mentioned automation and people, I think was what you were talking about. Are there any other major tips that you might suggest our listeners take on when it comes to just becoming more efficient in delegating?
For me, this really started thanks to a few books. The E-Myth Revisited was one of the first books I ever read about.
Michael Gerber.
Michael Gerber. Yeah. Later on, Tim Ferriss came along and really made this 4-hour work week idea, delegation, a big thing as well. So there's certainly books that can sort of help you think this way. But for me, the biggest awareness change was that Tim Ferriss's 80-20 rule is a good example, or what you said before about I have to do the moving forward tasks, not the routine day-to-day things, is creative tasks, whatever you want to call it, zone of genius. So I actually stepped back and said, well, if I was to do 1 or 2 or 3 things, me personally, every day that would move the business forward the most, what would those 3 things be? And I say that too because I want to do something. I don't want, like, some people want to build a company that they're never involved with at all, but a lot of people still want to do something, whether it's the writing or being the host on the podcast or having sales calls because they enjoy the selling and the talking to people, but they don't want to be the one doing the bookkeeping, setting up the Facebook ad campaign, writing the copy, for the sales page, calling the distributor to make sure the product's going to be delivered on time, all those kind of routine day-to-day things. So I think one of the smartest things you can do is actually do a brain dump and itemize all the tasks that you're doing now, all the tasks that you're not doing that probably should be doing as well, or will come up very soon. And then, put a circle around the ones that you can do, and then start everything else that you're not going to do, and then start to itemize that into a list of what to delegate first. And it can be through technology or it can be through outsourcing to external providers, or it can be hiring internally. And then you have to kind of look at and I say this because everyone's different. Some people have a lot of money for hiring, some people don't. Some people already have a team, some people don't. And those teams can be big or small. So you have to kind of go where you are and then go, okay, I see every time I launch a new product, I get bogged down in the sales page creation process. It's just a long page. There's a lot of information that needs to go into it. I don't know why I've been doing this myself. Next time, copywriter, I'm going to hire an external freelance copywriter. I'm going to pair them with my existing web designer. And I'm going to say, I'm going to maybe do one phone call with the copywriter just to speak out everything that I know about this product. And I'm going to say, you go away and come back between you two with a well done, beautiful sales page. So I don't have to even think about that. And I'm speaking from experience. My previous coaching business, I had to create some long form sales pages to sell a course or something like that. And I would spend a month just writing it and then working with the designer, maybe 2 months to try and actually get it to a finished, ready to go live. And I said, I can't, this is too much. I want to be nurturing my existing customers through coaching and then writing to reach my audience. So delegating that was the top of my list. So creating that list and prioritizing it and then deciding, how to off it to other people or technology or both is the way I'd go about it. And everything can be delegated. That's the thing to remind yourself. Absolutely everything. There's another human being out there or a piece of technology that can do it better than you can. And that's the hard thing to come to grips with when you're the person in that role. You are replaceable is what I'm basically saying.
But then do you work yourself out of a job?
Well, hey, maybe that's the goal.
Well, if you don't want to work yourself out of a job, for me, I think others would probably agree. There's certain things about your work that you absolutely adore, and it feels like it's part of your life purpose. And
me too.
You would be doing it into your grave. And there is a lot of what I do. I am blessed to be able to say that a great majority of my time is doing that. I definitely do, and it took a long time to get to this point. Where slowly, probably much longer than it would have taken had I talked to you 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago. But but there is a lot that I love to do. But to your point, it is a great mental exercise to say that everything can be delegated. And what you have to decide is what is things that you want to keep doing and what should be given to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Good example. I don't have to be the one on the show. I could delegate to one of my team members to talk to you, Dean, but
true.
I enjoy talking about this. I enjoy, connecting with other hosts of shows. Probably not forever. It's not a big part of my role, but it's something that keeps me jazzed about my own business too. So, I still do it and I still enjoy it.
Well, Yaro, this has been illuminating to me. And I really appreciate the tips that you provided around delegation, but also this whole process around emailing. Definitely food for thought. How can people connect to you?
Inboxdone.com if you want us to take over your email. Happy to do a discovery call there and find out, what your situation is. So inboxdone.com. And if you want to learn more about me, just Google my name, Yaro, Yaro. You can find my blog and my podcast that way.
And it's Starak, right? Starak?
Yeah, but you don't need my last name. Thankfully, there's not many Yaros in the world. So just Yaro in Google.
So you're like Cher, right? You got one name.
I've always been going for Madonna, Cher, Oprah, all that kind of thing. So
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you for listening to The Business of Intuition. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com.